All right, everybody, welcome to this week's Mentor Gathering. We're glad that you're here, and Chris Lane's with us, and hopefully better connection than last week, but it's all good. And hey, this week's topic is all about how to really just interject energy and enthusiasm into your campus club, and also talk a little bit about inter-club communication and helping students connect better. And so we're going to open up in prayer, and I'm going to turn it over to Chris Lane. God, we're thankful for today. Pray that you'll just guide our conversation, Lord, and just give us some great insight and wisdom into how to help our campus clubs run better, be more effective, and see more kids come to Jesus. We ask this in his name. Amen. So without further ado, Mr. Chris Lane.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Hey, I think that one of the things that's good to talk about is how to keep that energy and enthusiasm going in your club. I mean, the last thing that we talk a lot about that around here at First Party is we don't want the club to be like, ninth period after school. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you go to 8 different classes or 7 different classes, whatever kind of schedule your school is. We don't want that First Party, if it meets after school, to be like another class. You know what I mean? Oh, I got to come in here, sit down, and, get lectured the whole time. We want there to be more interaction, more enthusiasm, and maybe your club meets before school. So you really got to kind of work that, energy in there, because, man, who wants to get up early and get out there before school and be there early? So that's a challenge too. So just kind of going on the topic of how do we keep that going? I think one of the big things is communication. Are our clubs, is my club, are the clubs I'm overseeing, the clubs I'm working with, are they communicating well with each other so that students know what week it is when, before they get there. So they don't just show up and go, oh, it's Proclaim week, it's pizza week or donut week. Wow, I didn't know. So how important is it to kind of keep everybody engaged and communicating with them what's coming up, what's happening this week, what we're doing, what's expected of them, so that they can properly plan. If it's Proclaim week and we want them to bring friends, we don't want them to know when they walk in the door, hey, go find a friend. We want them to be thinking about that throughout the week, throughout their day, so they can be praying, inviting, meeting their friends, and actually physically bringing them to the club. So one great question is, am I communicating, is my club communicating well within the club? Are we doing the Remind Me app or the Group Me, or is there a text message or a platform that we're using, and that hopefully some student is, the head of that, so that the communication is getting out there. What are you guys that are on right now? What kind of thoughts do you have on that? What do you see working well? What's happening at clubs you're overseeing or clubs that you're involved in?
I'll jump in quick, and I'll tell you that last year, because I was in the club, Remind was like essential for me to be able to run the club. It was essential. It was essential in multiple facets. One, because I had a roster of who my regular attendees were. I had a way of communicating with them one message so that everyone got it at the same time. It helped me remember their names, believe it or not, so that I know who they were when they walked in. I can actually call them by name. And also I was able to separate my groups from just the entire roster, and then I had a separate class just for my student leaders, so that I was able to communicate with my student leaders separately. So it was a great tool, and I'm trying to get my guys now to start using it. So I only have one network meeting, so my next network meeting is going to be a main focal point to really encourage them to use Remind as a way of staying in contact.
That's good, Steve.
Yeah, I know one thing when you talk about it not being, 7th period or 8th period or whatever. I've noticed that when I show up at clubs sometimes, students naturally, because they've been doing it all day, all week long, all year long, they naturally just want to sit down in the seats and like start to listen. It's like a natural kind of habit. And so finding a game or something exciting to do in the beginning to get them out of their seats, moving around, gets that classroom feeling kind of out of the way. Even sometimes making them move the desks and then doing something in the main part of the room. kind of helps that excitement level come up, because it's natural. It's not like they're wanting to have 8th period. They're just, hey, come in, sit down, get ready for the time. And we don't want it to feel that way. So that's one of the things I do, is try to get some kind of fun game where they're moving around the room, not just like writing something on a piece of paper or talking to someone that's at the front of the room.
And listen, I hate to, I want to throw this out there also. Music is very essential to change the atmosphere, because when you walk into a room and you have music blasting, it, you know, and to Mike's point, it kind of breaks the mold of let me go sit down. Now you have kids communicating with each other and talking and, you know, and fellowshipping, and it's because that party atmosphere is there and music sets the tone a lot.
Yeah, I think that, you know, if I was going to kind of going through this, I think that first of all, communication is really important, so people know what's happening and they're expected and they're excited to be there and they know what's, you know, no surprises. So that's great. I think another one is, like Mike said, that, you know, that energy, that camaraderie. I think another one is like, are we connecting like a community when kids are coming in? Are we connecting them like, you know, whatever it is, man, we know people by name, people are greeting people, they're giving them a high five. And then there's some kind of, you know, like in a lot of the guides, there's different, and I know in the different guides that we have provided for our student leaders, there's games or activities that will help kind of get people up and out of their seats, maybe moving around, maybe interacting, maybe engaging each other. So you've got a sense of community. You know, people like that, you know, that there's community. They're not just coming in and they're, you know, today's teenager, there is a lot of isolation in their life, and they'll come in with headphones on and listening and just kind of sitting at a chair. You know, I've seen it so many times with a hoodie on, and they're just, and it's like, how can you not be engaging people? So I think sometimes it takes the leadership to realize I got to do something up front to kind of, like you said, have some music going, have a little contest, have something that's going to bring community to the group, so that they're, you know, camaraderie and they're connecting to each other. And it's not just a guy sitting back here in this seat and this girl over here and this guy standing here. It's like, no, we're encouraging and we're fostering engagement. So I think those are good. I think another thing too that's great is bringing some kind of like small trinket of a giveaway, you know, whether it's those little Reese's cups or whatever, small candies. This time of year, they're all over the place because Halloween's coming up. People come in, you throw them a little bag of Skittles and you give them a high five and, you know, hey, we're glad you're here today. Those kind of things, they go a long way. You know what I mean? I mean, what are we also doing in our youth ministry, in our youth groups on Wednesday or Friday or Saturday, whatever night we meet, that's we're engaging kids and we're making it feel, we're making an environment so there's some energy and there's some excitement. You guys got any thoughts on that?
Something that one of my mentors has been doing that has been just a huge success is instead of just giving out like a $5 gift card here or there to Starbucks, what they'll do is whoever wins the competition the next week, they'll have that student give them their Starbucks order and they'll bring in that Starbucks drink to the club.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
So they get their like personalized drink during the club. Everyone, all the other students are seeing them as they're drinking that drink, and it gets them really excited. That's something that I've seen that's been working very well. John,
that's a great one, man. That's why we do stuff like this, is to get great ideas, and everybody's involved. That's a great idea, John. Thanks for sharing that one, man. That's real. I'm gonna really pass that along. That's really sharp. That's really good.
Yeah.
You know, I think another thing is not only do we want to, you know, communicate well in advance, do we want to build that community excitement, camaraderie as people come in, but then, you know, and we mentioned this, are we caring for them? You know, an environment of caring. Do people know their names? You know, I know that's kind of goofy, but you might want to do name tags for a while, you know, at the beginning of the year. So people get people's names, because you know what's funny? I don't know about you, but I try to know all my neighbors' names, and I got people all around, and I'll get them and I'll put them in my phone or something, and I'll forget. And it's like, if I don't ask them, like when the first couple weeks they move in, now they've been living there 6 months. I've been talking to them, you know, for months. I don't know their name. It's kind of hard to ask them. You know what I mean? Like, hey, what's your name again? You know, like, dude, I've known you for 6 months now. I told you. So I think sometimes it's good to get the name tags maybe for a while or a week or two to kind of get everybody's name. Not all the time, but something like that to help remember people's names.
I want to jump in there for a second because Dave and I were talking about this yesterday. And it's interesting because we both mentored at different times, but we use the same technique. And we actually both incorporated sign-in sheets, right? Attendance logs. And so that was a great tool to remember people's names. Because even if I forgot your name during the club, when I went back to the sheet and saw who was there, just by scouring the names that's on the sheet, I'll be like, oh, so that was Jennifer. And so I remember, okay, I associate Jennifer with the person that I saw. And next week I'll remember that. And next week, and me being anal, I would type it up and have it like printed out. And so all they had to do was check off the name if they were there, or there'll be extra boxes so they can write their names at the bottom. The bottom line is that was a great tool for me to remember their names. And I ended the club last year with like 67 kids in the 60s. And I remember probably, 90% of their names. And I truly believe the combination of Remind and the attendance log helped me remember their names. And that's important. When you remember their names, these kids, they smile. You actually can see a difference in their body language. And then it gets to the point where when you're walking down the hallway, coming to club or between clubs, they'll see you and they'll talk to you or whatever. And this means a lot. It makes it more personal. It makes them feel like it's really their club.
Yeah, I want to say that really the room, the room is huge too. We had a Royal Palm Beach High School. This was maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. Mr. Bowen's classroom was small. It was kind of tight, and so it was, when you have like 5, 6 kids, it's fine. But as the club grew, it got to the point where it's like it was tight. And so, so it was like that kind of idea of like, having that big, massive room is great. But if you only got like 10 kids, it's like, it seems small. And so, being able to find a room that kind of fits your group makes it feel bigger than what it is, because that whole idea of crowd draws a crowd. There's nothing worse, obviously, than walking into, a church on Sunday morning that seats 100 people and there's like 50. It's like it just seems smaller. Everybody's kind of scattered out. So, sometimes even that room, maybe working with the teacher of saying, hey, let's find a room that fits our group that we can outgrow. It's like, and then, obviously if you got Proclaim weeks that tend to be pretty massive, make sure that it's in that spot where it's like, hey, we can accommodate the people. So the room's one, and really interesting story. The Don Estridge Middle School, their classroom is a great room. There's great space to do games, and then there's the desk area. So you've got like the seating area, and then you have this open space that you can kind of do all those games. But the key is that the classroom is actually on the hallway, where everybody who rides the bus and gets dropped off, that's where they go. They all just sit in that hallway. And so they've like started just, really pumping the music. They got a couple greeters at the door, and everybody walks by like, what's going on in there? What's going on? It's like the music's kind of loud enough that it's like you can hear it out in the hallway. And so it's really kind of that it's not like the one thing. It's not just music, and it's not just greeting at the door, and it's not just Remind and having that inter-club communication. It's a combination of all of them. And I think if we think about our student ministries, that's what we do. It's you have an 8 on Wednesday night, and what happens is that you shift over to campus and you just kind of you kind of lose that. You forget that it's like, no, I need to bring my A game here. Kind of doing what I do on a midweek of bringing energy and bringing excitement and fun and all that, but bring that over to the campus. You just replicate what you do on a Wednesday night and say, hey, listen, we're going to interject this here in our class, in this classroom. It may be smaller. It obviously looks different. It's different students than what you have. But if you bring some of that energy that you have on a Wednesday night, or even if your church does on a Sunday morning, those same things connecting into your club, it really brings a level of excellence, which is one of First Priority's core values, to the club. And it kind of ceases. It says, hey, we're going to do this with excellence. We're going to do this really well.
Something kind of
That's good.
Were you saying something, Chris?
No, go ahead, John.
Kind of heard music come up several times throughout this, and just something that I've seen that really kind of one, helps with convenience, and then two, gets students a little bit more excited about it, is one, bringing in like one of those Bluetooth speakers, sometimes logging into the computer and trying to pull up a YouTube playlist, and it can get really confusing. Bringing in a Bluetooth speaker and then trying to find a student who you ask, like, hey, would you want to be like the first priority DJ, and making sure that they put together a playlist that's appropriate, but also